I think it's a pretty good day for it, actually. For what, you might ask? Well, we're going to review an electric skateboard. That's what we're going to do today. Welcome. I'm TechManPat, or just Pat, whatever you guys want to call it. Call me, I suppose. Welcome to this channel. We do tech reviews, we do tech news and telco news. So if you want to see that, do subscribe. And if you like the reviews, also do subscribe. And smash that like button. That always helps. It really does. It's all about that algorithm. In any case, welcome to my review of this, the Evolve Carbon GT All-Terrain. So I want to walk you through, because I was going to try to hold this up for you guys and be like, well, look at this here and look at this here, but it's a bit heavy, but we'll get to that in a second. So, let's talk about Carbon and Evolve. So Evolve is an Australian company, which is a big plus in, I guess, today's world of, hey, buy Aussie and all that sort of stuff, Australian made. But you know, it's not all Australian made. You know, obviously a lot of manufacturing takes place overseas, but overall it's a pretty interesting Aussie company. In any case, let's talk about the board and the reason why I chose this one, and I suppose my thought behind it. So I want to reiterate that this is a review of this specific product and my view from a tech perspective to someone who enjoys skateboarding, snowboarding, and also someone who goes 20 Ks to work on an electric skateboard, and somebody who just wants to make their life, travel life to work a little bit easier, or fun actually. So this is the Evolve All-Terrain. The price is an eye-watering $2,100, depending on what you're actually gonna get. So what do you get? First of all, you get the board. This is the carbon board as opposed to the bamboo board, and the first reasoning behind why you would choose the carbon board is your weight. If you are on the more heavier side, I'm around, I think 100 and a bit, this board is the one for you, because the bamboo one is, well, bendy. You can stand in the middle, and if you're kind of, I suppose, heavy enough, you could actually bend it, not break it, but bend it to the ground, and the clearance gets really low really quickly, even on these massive 97 mil or 107, can't quite remember, wheels. As someone who lives in Australia, and Western Australia in particular, the place is pretty flat, but the roads aren't the best in regards to smoothness, so a wheel that is just little, small, and made out of rubbery stuff, I just wouldn't use, because as soon as a bump comes along on a bike path, you're going to fall over. Now, the other consideration you also have to take into choosing a board is if it's actually legal in your state. Now, some states, well, you can only use them on private property. It doesn't stop anyone from actually buying and using them, but it's just a disclaimer I should add. Now, the last choice you're going to have to make is the size of the battery that comes with your board. You either get a 30-kilometer range for these wheels or a 10-kilometer range, and I believe if you have the other wheels, the range is about 45 or 50 kilometers and 15 for the smaller battery. All I have to say is do not get the smaller battery. Save up a bit of money, spend a bit more money, get the larger battery. You will not regret it. The board is so much fun. If you're using it at 15 kilometers or 10 on these wheels, and we'll talk about that in a second, why these wheels obviously have less range, then what's the point of getting the board? There really isn't. You want at least 30, and I'll talk about why that is, because to be honest, I only got about 20 out of it. And that is because of my weight and the places I'm going and the hills or potential areas where I need to use a bit more power. So that's the reasons why I chose this specific board out of the Evolve lineup. It's distance, it's able to take my weight, the wheels are safe to go over the bumps, and the reason I chose Evolve overall, not apart from the fact that they're an Australian company and we want to support Australian companies doing really cool stuff like this, but also I had a recommendation from a friend. I also watched a lot of videos before I made my decision. I hope this video helps you make a decision along the way. And so that is why I chose Evolve. Now, I had to wait a long time, about 2 months before this got delivered, because during the human malware pandemic, these things were, well, they were really, really popular. So let's talk about the range, and based on these wheels, it is about 30 kilometers. And unfortunately, if you are heavier or go over more hills or need more power or not use the eco mode, which you probably won't be using after the first 2 days, which we'll talk about in a moment, you will want to get the bigger battery, because you're at least going to hit, in my experience, about 20 kilometers, and that was enough for me. I'm about 20 kilometers away from work. I was able to go to work, charge it for 8 hours, and then come back on the board, which was awesome, but it was rather painful. Your feet have to balance on this, and I've tightened the trucks quite a lot to try and combat this. But when you're riding around, if you're not sort of swerving in and out and doing a bit of carving, you're certainly going to get a sore leg, or at least the blood isn't just going to flow very well. And the experience I would compare this to is actually snowboarding, when the boot is not quite the right fit and you've been sort of going down a straight track a lot, then your legs or your feet will hurt. Overall, if you've skateboarded before, you're gonna absolutely love this. If you've snowboarded before and the human malware has stopped you from getting to a mountain, this is the best way you can get some carving done as a snowboarder, and that's where I really like it. So let's talk about the speeds. If you're on the smaller wheels, images over here, you can hit about 48, 46 kilometers an hour. That is some crazy speeds on a board that's on your feet and you're not even strapped into it. And if you're on these wheels, it's a more acceptable 36 kilometers an hour. And trust me, with my weight, I certainly get to that speed and I stay at that speed, and it's absolutely fine. So safety-wise, a helmet is a must. And if you've got some gloves, which are currently pretty much sold out everywhere, I would recommend getting some wrist guards, or at least the gloves that you have. Overall, the best time to ride this is on wide footpaths and without people around, because you can then enjoy yourself. The wheels themselves are pretty sturdy. They're pumped up straight away. When you unbox this, this is what you get. You also get, obviously, a box with some goodies, the charger, which is a large brick, and the plug-in cable. It could be better. It's not very good. It goes in kind of difficultly, and of course, for some strange reason, the part that covers the charger at the bottom to stop any water or dirt getting in doesn't always stay on. The trigger, on the other hand, is absolutely fantastic. I think the design is great. It has a dead man switch. You will not be able to power it from a go if you're not holding it at the bottom here. So just in case something happens, you won't be able to just randomly press it. There are settings from Eco to Pro to GTR mode. We'll talk about those modes in a second. And also there is like this sort of safe mode. As soon as you turn it on, it starts in that mode, and it's good to just get the feel on it that you're ready to go, and that's really useful. Overall, I think it's probably one of the best e-skate triggers I've used in the past. I would also suggest get a cover for it if you're likely to fall and sort of drop it, because it's not cheap. And the only thing I would say is I'd prefer a USB-C charging port at the bottom, because micro B or the little mini whatever it is USBs, they die pretty quickly and they're not very good. That's why USB-C is around, and it's a bit of a pain to plug it in. But they're really accessible and it's easy to find, so charging this is not a problem. The battery lasts long enough for you to not have to worry about charging this every time you charge this. The board is powered by two 1500 motors at the back. They are sort of funky looking because they actually spin here while spinning the wheels. It's a really cool design because the motors are not inside the actual trucks, which means that the trucks are very strong. The wheels are strongly connected to it, and they are powered separately and away from the ground, away from crap getting inside here. Though I'm not saying crap doesn't get in there, I'm just saying that it's a little bit further away. And they are very powerful. There is a 30% incline possible with a hill in GTR mode. And all the modes do is your acceleration curve. So from the point where you press this, how much power actually goes to these motors and gets you going really quickly, at least how much wattage or voltage hits it, basically means that from a standstill, you'll be up to the speed faster. It does not change your max overall speed, except in safe, where the actual speed is limited to about 10 kilometers an hour. There is no reverse in this board, and the brakes are regenerative, so it means that if your battery is full, like 100%, you might potentially not be able to brake for a long time. This is actually an inherent design fault of things like this, but what the companies do, they don't always let you charge it to 100%, maybe 95, which means there's about 5% for you, that if you start off at 100% and you go down a hill and you're holding that button to brake, it actually won't stop you from braking. You'll continue braking because there's still plenty of battery space left for for that the regenerative energy that you're creating as you brake. The brakes are actually really good. I've come to a stop from 36 kilometers an hour very quickly. I was able to jump off a board to avoid an obstacle, and I was pretty impressed. You will have to adjust your weight to it. You'll have to push your left foot or whatever foot you might ride, if it's regular or goofy, forward to make sure that when you start braking, that angle or the weight is more to the back rather than the front, so you don't go flying forward. Same goes for the opposite. When you're accelerating, put your weight forward and your back foot out to make sure that when you feel the pressure of the acceleration, and there is certainly very strong pressure and acceleration from the board, you will be able to stay on it instead of it flying away under your feet. Now, a little bit of a warning. There is an issue with the brakes. I don't know if it's an issue or if it's just inherent to the way it's designed, or if it can be fixed with a firmware update to the controller. When you are going faster than 40 kilometers an hour, potentially down a hill, or maybe even 46 kilometers an hour on the other wheels, when you tap the brake, even so slightly, there will be a jolt as they engage, and that jolt can potentially throw you off if your trucks are not tight enough. And I suggest you tighten them quickly before you get on. And when you do tighten them, the board will feel a little bit stiffer, but it'll also feel a little bit sturdier when you're braking and turning. And you do get a little tool to adjust this, so I suggest you take that in your backpack as you ride, or if you're going for a short ride, you probably won't need it, but just tighten it up after a long ride, maybe half a turn or even 1/5 of the turn, just to keep it moving forward, because there is little plastics in there that sort of tighten up over time, and they are replaceable, because while the metal parts of these trucks are probably only available from Evolve, the little clips inside here you'll be able to get online, not a problem, because they're pretty standard. And that's the other thing about parts. Most of these parts are not standard. You will have to go to Evolve, and of course the battery and a lot of these parts are inaccessible. So let's keep going. If it rains, it is sort of waterproof, not really. Obviously, the motors out here are exposed. If water gets into them, it's an electronic item. It's not gonna do well. The top here, if it rains slightly, it might not get into it. There's a rubber grommet between here that goes around, and it shouldn't be an issue. But again, if it floods, that's a problem. On the bottom, we have a little compartment here that is also sealed up with a rubber grommet around it, and it shouldn't get wet with splashes because the water is going down, it's not going up, which is great, and that should allow you to just go through puddles and things. And the rest of the board here is really, really thin. It is much thinner than the actual bamboo in regards to this way, and that means there's a higher clearance here. So going over bumps or even coming down off a curb is much easier with this, and also means you're not going to be scratching the bottom of your board, because remember, at the end of the day, there is a large amount of battery under here, and as you may know as a child, if you poke a battery with something sharp, it will catch on fire, potentially explode, and you don't want that with this. This is a pretty dangerous toy overall, and riding it is an absolute blast. So let's talk about riding this board and what it's like to enjoy. So like I mentioned, I used to skate as a teenager, and as an adult I snowboard, and I enjoy both activities. I still have my own skateboard. This is a completely different experience. It's the experience of a longboarder going down a hill and carving hills. This is an experience of a snowboarder going down a hill and carving hills. This is a carving board, and it's absolutely enjoyable. I would like to add that if you are on the lighter side, the bamboo is a little bit softer on the carving, and it feels a little bit more like a longboard. This is a solid ride, and when you're carving, you have to put pressure into your legs, into your muscles to get those carves going, and it's very satisfactory, and you feel that weight pushing out into your feet out of that curve. It feels great, it's really enjoyable, and leaning over at these ridiculous degrees on concrete when you're turning is an absolute blast, and it's fast. That's the other part. No matter what wheels you get on, you're going to be going fast. Obviously the other wheels, the smaller ones, are faster, but I just cannot recommend them for people who are going to want to not fall off. I have found that the smaller the wheels, the more likely you're going to hit a little bit of a rock or something, you get flung off, and you're going at ridiculous speeds anyway. And this just means you can jump off to the grass, you might avoid an obstacle onto grass, so I just don't recommend it, and that's why I chose the all-terrain version. So let's talk about actually using it to get somewhere. One One of the things with this is that not only is it fast, it is absolutely enjoyable, sure, it is actually able to get you from A to B. Now you might get some strange looks if you bring this on the train, and I've done it a few times. It is unwieldy to say the least, especially if it's peak hour. But sometimes when your feet hurt too much from riding this, you might want to catch the train. In that case, you can kind of roll it down as a little pulley thing and keep it close to your chest. You should be all right, but it is very, very heavy. Now, getting it from A to B and riding those long distances, you have to make sure to sort of keep your legs moving, keep the blood flowing to pretty much not hurt yourself, because it does hurt a lot when you're standing there. And when you are speeding at around 36 kilometers, 30 kilometers, you can't really adjust your feet. The grip on it is really solid. Once you're on it, you're on it. One thing I will mention, the little bumps here, the little angle is really good for your feet. You can sort of put your foot against it, you know where the edge is. Same over here. And when you're going over bumps and you're going over things, they help your feet stay on the board, and that's the most important thing, to keep your feet on the board, especially at the speeds that you might be doing on this. And people of all ages would enjoy this, but I would say if you're not very mobile in regards to your back movement or your leg movement, this is certainly not the product for you. You're better off with an e-scooter or something like that, or even an electric bike to get those legs moving without actual pressure coming from the bottom. If you're a kid, this is a little bit too powerful for you. You do need some weight to keep control of this board, and that's what the carbon's about. It does, in my opinion, need a little bit of weight to keep it under control. And you also have to be comfortable in bending over significant degrees to avoid obstacles, and also very comfortable in slowing down and comfortable with skidding. This is something I've been trying to master for a little while. Skidding on dirt, rock, and of course grass feels weird. It doesn't feel like a normal board, and you have to get comfortable with it. You also have to get comfortable with coordinating with your hand. That is a must to ride this board, and I think at the end of the day, once you master these two things, it's just second nature and it becomes an absolute fun ride. So what are the negatives? Well, apart from the price, I think it's a little bit overpriced for what you get. I think there's some cheaper boards that almost get there, and the premium you pay is for that perfection, and that's what you get here. I think if the price got a little bit lower, it'd be good, but I think the manufacturing and building of this is pretty expensive. The build quality is amazing. I mean, this is some solid carbon stuff. The metal inside, whatever it is, it's very solid. Nothing feels cheap, and it shouldn't at this price. I'm absolutely impressed about the build quality, and what I'm actually most impressed about is that top grip tape on here. It's good. I'm not sure how long it's going to last, but it's damn good. And if I'm going to get a replacement, I'm going to get the replacement from Evolve, because I want the same quality and the same actual grip that it provides that I've been used to so far. There's a lot of posts online about bad customer service, but the fact of the matter is, most of the time when somebody has an issue, they're usually quite vocal, and that's why you see it online, social media, Facebook groups, Twitter, about an issue they're having with the board. I've even seen a video of this actually being smoking up and setting itself on fire with no power on at all. And that's a concern, but it happens with a lot of electronics. The latest version has fixed a lot of issues from past versions, so if you're thinking about getting one now, it's not a bad time to get one. Just know that you'll be waiting on a bit of a waiting list to get one, because they're really, really popular. So final thoughts, and do I actually recommend it? Absolutely, I recommend it to anyone who's missing the mountain, the snows, and if somebody who's a longboarder and wants to get to work and just enjoys that sort of stuff. And there's a lot of flatness in Western Australia. This is an absolute beast of a longboard to get, and it is actually a little bit longer than the bamboo version. Continuing on the final thoughts, the controller is absolutely fantastic. The settings on it are really simple to understand. You don't necessarily need an instruction manual, but maybe read one just in case. It's really easy and quick and connect. It works via Bluetooth. There are replacements of this, about 200 bucks, which is concerning. This is not a cheap device. So I know this video has been a bit long. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed some of the riding around that was seen in the background. I really wanted to get my thoughts across about this because it is an expensive device. It has a lot to it, but the premise is very simple. So if you're thinking about buying one, let me know your thoughts below. If the video helped you, or if you have any other questions, I'm not sure if I covered everything I wanted to cover, and I hope to do maybe some more reviews one day when I get a different item like this, because I'm actually really enjoying it to the point where damn it, it's become another hobby, hasn't it? In any case, thank you very much for watching. If you did like this video, if this video did help you, please smash that like button. It really helps a lot with this channel. And if you'd like to see more content like this, then let me know below, because it's a tech channel. But if you want to see more tech stuff, make sure to subscribe. Thanks you very much for watching. Catch you all in another one. Bye! Man, after all talking about this, I'm gonna go for a ride.